You wake up, sit on the edge of the bed, maybe sigh. You shuffle to the kitchen, pour a cup of coffee, and stare out the window. You're not sad, not exactly, but you're not eager either. The day begins, but not because you want it to, just because it does. What if I told you this quiet, ordinary morning is part of a habit that might be aging you faster than your actual years? Not the coffee, not the window, but the invisible pattern you follow without even thinking. Aging isn't just biological. It's behavioral. What we do daily, or don't do, sends instructions to the brain and body. Speed up repair, or slow it down. Stay alert, or shut down for now. Most people think aging is like a timer counting down. But in reality, it's more like a code, and the way we live either accelerates or decodes that process. And after 65, the margin for error narrows. It's not the big dramatic choices that age us fastest. It's the repeated small ones. What you reach for when no one's watching. What you say to yourself when you forget something. How you move, or don't, between breakfast and lunch. What you listen to, who you avoid, what you no longer try. None of it looks harmful. Until one day, you wonder, why do I feel 10 years older than I am? Here's the truth no one likes to say out loud. Most people aren't old. They're just running the same outdated script every day, and that script is exhausting them. You don't need to run a marathon, but you might need to change what happens in your first 15 minutes of the day. You don't need to reinvent your life, but you may need to delete one behavior that's stealing energy without asking. We've identified 5 specific habits that slowly chip away at your strength, energy, clarity, and mood, often without you noticing. Some were picked up in retirement. Others were born from grief, fatigue, or routine. But every one of them is reversible. And once you name them, they start losing power. In the next part, we'll break them down, one by one, starting with the first and most underestimated. What you do with your body in the first 10 minutes after waking up. It might seem harmless, but the science says otherwise. There's a moment in the morning that many people don't even notice. It's that window of time between waking and doing anything at all. You've gotten out of bed. Maybe you're holding onto a door frame or standing at the bathroom sink, but you're not truly moving yet. Not with intention. This space, between sleep and action, isn't just neutral. It's active in one direction or another. And for many older adults, it's quietly signaling the body to begin a slower, quieter day than the one they're capable of. That signal might sound like, take it easy. There's no rush. Stay still a little longer. It feels harmless. In fact, it may feel responsible, careful, even. But what it actually does is condition your nervous system into a lower gear. The heart rate stays low. The lymphatic system doesn't pump efficiently. The vestibular system, which controls balance, stays partially inactive. And your posture? It's already collapsing inward before the day has even begun. It's not just physical. The mental cost is just as real. The brain is primed to reboot after sleep, but only if it's invited to do so. That invitation usually comes from motion, orientation, and breath. Without those things, the prefrontal cortex takes longer to activate. That's the part of your brain that controls decision-making, planning, emotional regulation. So the longer you linger in that morning fog without engaging the body, the longer your brain stays in standby mode. This is why some days feel off from the very beginning. You can't find the rhythm, or the clarity, or even the reason to care about how the day unfolds. It's not age. It's input. Or more accurately, the lack of it. Most people think rest is good, and it is, at the right times. But morning is not the time to prolong restfulness. It's the time to generate energy, even if you don't feel like you have much to start with. Because that's the paradox. Energy comes from action, not the other way around. And after 65, every day you delay motion is a day your body practices getting slower. So what should happen instead? Not exercise. Not a routine. Just a signal. The kind of signal your body can understand in under 2 minutes. Stretch upward. Roll your shoulders. Breathe with awareness. Stand fully upright, even if only for a few seconds. Take a few purposeful steps. What matters is not the intensity. It's the intentionality. You're not trying to burn calories. You're trying to remind your nervous system that this is a day worth stepping into, not drifting through. You don't have to move fast, but you do have to move first. Before the coffee, before the phone, before the voice in your head starts giving excuses. The first motion of the day is like the first note in a song. It sets the tone, and over time, it defines the whole rhythm of how you age. This isn't about becoming a morning person. It's about refusing to let your first posture of the day be one of collapse, delay, or doubt. The habit of stillness trains the body to respond more slowly to everything, including challenge, change, and even joy. But when you shift that habit, when you start with motion, however small, the body starts responding differently. It becomes more alert, more stable, more available for life. And if you do this often enough, something remarkable happens. You stop feeling old first thing in the morning. And that single shift, it changes everything else. It seems harmless. You make coffee. You sit down. And before your food, before your water, before you even say good morning to anyone, you open your phone. News, headlines, social media, messages, opinions, disasters, conflict. Within 30 seconds of waking, your brain has already absorbed more tension than your ancestors dealt with in a week. And it hasn't even fully switched on yet. This is what neuroscientists call early input vulnerability. In the first 20 to 30 minutes after waking, your prefrontal cortex is still calibrating. The limbic system, which processes emotion, is active. The filter between important and overwhelming is weak. When you scroll through fear, outrage, or bad news during this window, it sticks. Not because you're weak, but because your brain is designed to pay attention to threats first. And the older brain? It's even more sensitive to this imbalance. Because cortisol regulation declines with age. The emotional residue of negative content doesn't fade as easily. A bad morning headline can color your whole day. Not because the world is worse than usual, but because you allowed someone else's narrative to hijack your nervous system before you had a chance to claim it. It's not about pretending everything is fine. It's about deciding what gets to define your morning mindset. The solution isn't stay uninformed. It's timing and tone. Choose gentler inputs in your first 30 minutes. Let your brain boot up fully before you expose it to complexity. This can look like reading a page from a book you like, listening to soft instrumental music, writing down 3 observations about the morning, looking outside and noticing color, light, or motion, having a short call with someone who makes you feel safe. You're not escaping reality. You're preparing your brain to meet it better. Now, habit number 3. One that starts with convenience, then slowly chips away at nutrition, memory, and energy. It's the idea that a few crackers, a protein bar, or a yogurt cup count as eating. The snack habit is subtle. You don't feel like making breakfast. You nibble something small. It's enough, until it becomes your default. A bar at 8. A banana at 10. Crackers at noon. Your stomach stays busy, but your body never feels fed. This habit is not just about calories. It's about signals. Every full meal tells your body, here's energy. Use it with purpose. Snacks, especially ones rich in sugar and carbs, say, here's something, but not enough to do much. As we age, the body becomes less efficient at storing and using nutrients. Muscles need more protein. Brains need more fats. The digestive system needs structure, not randomness. But snacking offers no structure, just interruptions. People often report feeling foggy, tired, or irritated in late morning. They assume it's sleep, age, or weather. More often, it's fuel, or lack of it. A proper breakfast with protein, fiber, healthy fat, and hydration doesn't just improve physical energy. It stabilizes mood, sharpens memory, and supports the hormonal rhythm for the entire day. And the older you are, the more each of these things matters. This isn't about strict diets or gourmet meals. It's about breaking the cycle of nutritional randomness. 3 crackers do not make a breakfast. A protein shake is not a full lunch. And I'm not that hungry is often a symptom of yesterday's snack spiral, not today's need. You might not call it loneliness. You might call it peace, or simplicity, or just the way things are. After a certain age, we learn how to spend time alone without complaint. We stop expecting invitations. We tell ourselves we like the quiet. And sometimes that's true. But when the quiet starts lasting longer than we intended, it becomes something else entirely. Most harmful habits don't come from rebellion. They come from adaptation. And emotional isolation is a perfect example. At first, skipping a call feels like rest. Saying no to a gathering feels like control. Avoiding small talk feels like clarity. But over time, isolation becomes invisible. You stop missing people because you've stopped imagining what connection could feel like. The danger isn't sadness. It's flattening emotionally, cognitively, socially. Brains need stimulation to stay elastic. That stimulation isn't just puzzles or reading. It's interaction. It's unpredictability. It's the tiny mental shift that happens when someone else says, "How are you?" And you actually have to form an answer. Without that friction, the brain coasts. And when the brain coasts, so does the body. Inactivity of mind leads to passivity of movement, voice, and motivation. You start doing less, moving less, even expressing less, and it all feels normal. Isolation is also a metabolic risk. People who lack regular human interaction have measurably higher levels of inflammatory markers in the blood. Their immune systems become less efficient. Their sleep patterns fragment. They are more vulnerable to cognitive decline. And yet it's one of the most socially accepted conditions of aging. There's something deeply human about spontaneous conversation, the kind that has no purpose except to exist. Moments like this aren't scheduled. They don't need an invitation. They happen while picking herbs, walking the dog, or checking the mail. These interactions might only last a minute or two, but they engage the mind in ways that solitary routines never can. You're not performing. You're responding, reacting, interpreting tone, recalling names, adjusting your phrasing all in real time. And that's exactly the kind of subtle mental activity that keeps cognitive skills sharp with age. The benefit isn't only neurological. Short, face-to-face exchanges, even with people you barely know, can reduce resting heart rate and increase oxytocin levels, especially in older adults. That's the hormone that supports bonding and reduces stress. And it doesn't require deep relationships to activate. Simple presence is often enough. If you've gone a week without speaking out loud to someone, really speaking, not just answering the phone, that's not trivial. That's a signal, not a failure, not a flaw. Just a cue that something might need adjustment. Rebuilding social contact doesn't begin with a decision. It begins with exposure. And exposure doesn't mean drama or effort. It can be as quiet as sitting where others pass by, or changing your walking route to cross paths with a neighbor, or simply listening, really listening, when someone tells you about their day. Interaction is not an event. It's a condition, like air or sunlight. Even small amounts can be enough to shift how you feel, move, and think for the rest of the day. The television isn't loud. It's not dramatic. It's just there. A presence in the room. Something moving. Something talking. Something filling the air when no one else is. Many older adults don't even watch it with attention anymore. It's background. A familiar rhythm. Company without demand. And that's exactly the problem. Background stimulation feels safe. It doesn't challenge you. It doesn't require energy. It doesn't ask anything of you. But over time, the brain responds to this pattern the only way it can, by reducing output to match input. Unlike conversation, reading, or problem-solving, passive media doesn't engage the prefrontal cortex. It doesn't encourage memory formation or language recall. It doesn't stimulate decision-making or creativity. The brain becomes accustomed to consuming rather than processing. That may seem harmless, but over time, it builds a tolerance, and like any tolerance, it leads to dulling. Lower emotional reaction, fewer mental connections, reduced language retrieval, and in some cases, earlier signs of cognitive fatigue. This is especially true when the input is random, flipping through channels, leaving a news stream running for hours, letting autoplay drive what you hear and see. The brain loses its sense of intention, and the longer it stays passive, the harder it becomes to restart focus or initiative. You start skipping tasks, avoiding calls, forgetting details, not because you're aging too fast, but because your attention has lost its tone. Passive input isn't evil, it just needs boundaries. Replacing 1 hour of background television with a focused activity, even a simple one, has measurable benefits. Completing a puzzle, writing a list, listening to an audiobook with interest, calling a friend, and actually concentrating on the conversation. Each of these moments activates networks that passive viewing leaves untouched. They rebuild attention span. They train memory retrieval. They sharpen language and improve processing speed. The goal isn't to eliminate quiet entertainment. It's to balance consumption with engagement. Just because something is on doesn't mean it's helping. And just because it's familiar doesn't mean it's harmless. By now, the pattern is clear. These small habits, the stillness after waking, the headlines before speaking, the snack instead of a meal, don't feel dangerous. They blend into the day. They don't draw attention to themselves. And that's why they hold power. Each one quietly shifts how the body starts, how the brain responds, how the day takes shape. They lower engagement, interrupt rhythm, and reduce clarity in ways that accumulate slowly. A 2022 study in Frontiers in Aging Neuroscience observed that older adults who missed out on early physical or cognitive activation, even gentle, non-demanding forms, were more likely to show a drop in executive function over time. Planning, focus, emotional stability all began to slide, even when medical health stayed stable. What made the difference wasn't intensity. It was structure. The presence of one or two moments that asked the brain and body to participate. You don't need many changes to shift how a day begins. One is enough. Move your body within minutes of waking, even briefly. That single motion changes how your balance system activates and how your attention forms. Eat something that requires a pause. A plate you prepare, sit with, and finish without distraction. Your metabolism responds to the full experience, not just the calories. Give yourself a moment of quiet before anything external enters. No screens, no noise. Let your own thoughts take shape first. These actions are small, but the system notices. The day takes a different shape. So do you. There's a certain kind of silence that doesn't calm the body. It stretches too long, stays too quiet, and begins to feel like absence instead of peace. That's what emotional isolation becomes when left unchecked. No calls, no visits, no need to speak, and soon, no habit of speaking at all. When social interaction fades, the brain doesn't get the signals it depends on. Speech patterns slow. Memory recall weakens. Even posture and walking pace can shift without the subtle demands of regular contact. But this doesn't need dramatic repair. What it needs is reactivation. A simple, daily practice. Speak to someone, in person or by phone. Ask something real, even simple. Don't wait for a reason. Make one. This is not about conversation. This is about keeping your thinking system in motion. And there's no better way to do that than using your voice with another human being. Now for the fifth habit. The hours lost to passive input. Television running all day. Radio in the background. Endless autoplay from a tablet or phone. None of it demands attention. And so, over time, attention weakens. The brain works like a muscle. If nothing is asked, nothing is offered. To shift this, start here. Turn off background noise for 1 full hour a day. Use that hour to do something you choose and control. Read a chapter, work with your hands, talk to someone, or simply sit in silence, not to kill time, but to notice it. This is how attention returns. Not by force, but by clearing a path for it. These two changes, speaking more and consuming less, are sharper than they sound. They pull your mind back into shape. They create the conditions for clarity to return. You don't have to do it all at once. But one of them, done today, would already make tomorrow a better place to start from.